Welcome to the Crimeycade. I'm the Mac Conservative Crime Fighter. So I had to switch to the wired headset because my wireless, this thing, I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know if it's getting enough of a charge. I mean, I charge it up before the pod, and at times the audio cuts out while I'm talking, and I don't know why. Plus, I had to run a wire from this room to the router in the living room just to keep the video up because it's been my Wi-Fi has been cutting out at random times, and I don't know why it's doing that either. And the strange thing is, it's performing normally while I'm using the computer and watching streams and stuff. So go figure. Anyway, well, let's get to it. Last week, our guest was Erica Stevenson, who has the YouTube channel Erica's Pinball Journey. Oh, let me get rid of the comments hide the comments for the moment because it's covering up stuff. Talked Pinball and the Chicago Pinball Expo, some of the new titles that are out. Yeah, the pinball convention that I was not able to attend because of cat issues, which I had to shut the door because both my cats keep hopping on the desk and they're just being a royal nuisance of late. They're needy and stuff. So that was last Thursday. However, Monday, I did another podcast. Mike Rossi, the PowerFest 1994 champion, was in here on Monday right after Gavin Goes to Arcade Monday Mystery Game. I had to get him on as soon as possible because he's going on a road trip. In mid-February, he'll be away for a month as he's making his way over to the Game On Expo, which he'll be running the Retro Gaming Challenge on all the Nintendo tournament cartridges. A championship belt is on the line. However, during the course of our discussions, one of the individuals that he beat on the way to winning the PowerFest 94 tournament, I reached out to somebody to ask him a few questions, and looks like something's up. Because over on Twitter, he posted the message to Mike Rossi, Game On Expo, March 13th, after the audit's done, signed the #1 player in Dragon Quest Monsters Joker. So, interesting things to come. We'll see. Looks like this gentleman by the name of Nightmare James is looking for revenge of sorts. We'll just have to see if this trip, if he's really is going out to Game On Expo in Phoenix, Arizona. And gamers are wanted. If you are a gamer, work at gaming, touring competitor, create content, have notoriety, game fanatic, let's talk. I do have guests on the backside of this podcast. I have some new announcements on upcoming guests. I think you'll like who they are. And if you're watching me on Facebook, please follow my Twitch channel on twitch.tv/rapsheet. If you are watching, if you're watching on Twitch, follow my Facebook page at facebook.com/Crimeycade. You can catch my past episodes on YouTube. Crime Fighter on YouTube. Tiny.cc/PWCI will also is the quick URL. And I have to give my mandatory weekly Beezer slide since everybody is giving me heck for Beezer. Doc Beck so many weeks ago wondering if he had Beezer in the vaults because Wieners and Losers came out with their own copy of Beezer on their arcade floor. So this is the unreleased in television version of Beezer, which would have been released by Magic. However, the game probably didn't go into coding, or much in the way of coding got started on this, but this is a mock-up of what the box could have looked like. And Arcade Wars update, it looks like Goblin Ghost Arcade is going to take Final Fight for the month of January. You want to put in a score and try to take their, see if you can beat Jeff Lucas's score. Tomorrow and Saturday, last chance. Garcade, last chance for them, as well as the One-Up Arcade and any other arcade that wants to submit scores. And the power rankings for the end of January, yeah, I dropped back to 10th place. What else is new? There's a long way to go. And the chase for tokens continues. Yeah. Oh, Jamie Tibbetts has slipped ahead of me again. Oh, well, I got to reorder that. Game of the Year odds. So there's been discussion about whether it's all about how many challenge cards you complete. Is it all going to be about the challenge cards? Or are there other metrics involved? Well, of course there's going to be other metrics involved. The thing of the matter is, right now, this is front and center. This is getting all the attention right now. Sure, there's score chasing going on. High scores and stuff. New records are being set. And I kind of had to adjust this a little bit. Andrew Wasco is still getting those house highs at Goblin Ghost Arcade. New ones. 215. It's 215 house highs and world records at Goblin Ghost Arcade. Yeah, he took back some of my scores after I took it from him. So, Clint Capello, I had to drop him down a little bit because, you know, after he completed his level 6, he's on his level 7, but he's been relatively quiet. And of course, Motzi's keeps marching on all the new cards. So, this is where it stands, and we'll see how things change in the next few weeks. All right, my guest at this time, and he is a documentarian. He is also filmmaker. He's produced a number of shorts, kind of leaning towards the horror genre, but this documentary project is the biggest one they've done yet, and it's been in the works for the last 5 years, going on 6. So to introduce our guests, we're going to check out the trailer for Ghostlord The Quest for Dark Presence.
27 years working on a game, it's ridiculous. I don't think there's any video game in the history of video games that have ever taken that long.
The game's always 6 months away. I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where he was satisfied with it.
You can't think about how it can continuously improve. You have to just put it out there. You have to stop.
I hope to put out a game that everyone enjoys, that they're talking about is the next big thing.
We had nothing to work with and no skills. What a crazy place to come from. It was like, oh, it would be cool if we were the actual characters.
Part of me was thinking, is this really happening?
The initial casting ground that we had was the export gym.
I was just on the treadmill. He just walked over, and I'm like, what's this guy want?
I'd be driving and looking in cars because I didn't want to miss that person.
I was working in Caribou Coffee.
I'd already done that one movie, and this was kind of another acting gig.
This was the tail end of my competition days. Is it an X-rated snuff film where my balls are hanging from some guy's tree? I don't know, but I say yes anyway.
It was like this creepy abandoned warehouse.
I was really weirded out by all the weapons that you've never seen before.
The atmosphere on set was definitely dangerous. They were using some real stuff with people who had no clue what they were doing.
Wham! Like he goes out of the frame. I hear this neck crunch. He was like, that's what it's all about.
I think the highest count was either 130 takes or 180 takes, and it still wasn't right.
Every mistake you could make, we made it.
Well, Doc decided to make the largest arcade in the world. It's definitely infringed on the development of the game.
We opened with 130 machines, and now it's at over 890 plus games.
Now he has like a whole block.
The guy's got more stuff to worry about than most Fortune 500 CEOs.
You know, as a kid, everyone wants to make video games and stuff. When you actually do start doing it, it's a job.
Are people gonna think it's cool, or is it just like this stupid project that this guy tried to do?
This has been a life's work.
I'd say it's his muse.
I still don't think there is any game like it.
He put so much of himself into it. He's got to finish it.
This game's never coming out. There's not a chance.
It's been some time, but Dark Presence will be out.
And here he is, the man who organized all this controlled chaos in a multi-year filmmaking project. Craig Bass of the Year in the Phoenix, welcome in.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let's get started. Take us at the beginning about your career as a filmmaker. What got you into filmmaking?
Depends how far back you want to go, but as we're probably roughly around the same age. So as a kid in the 80s, having access to a VHS camera, specifically my grandfather's VHS camera, I really think that was the birth of it. It's just, you just make movies with your friends, right? I mean, it feels fairly cliche, but that was probably the genesis of everything. And it's been a long journey since that point.
Did you go to school to be a filmmaker, or did you just learn it like I did?
Yeah,
on my own.
Precisely. Yeah. I actually dropped out of high school. I had a very rough time at that point in my life. So I dropped out of high school. I got my GED. I was going to community college briefly, mainly because I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I figured there was no path to it. I didn't have the money to go to school, to go to film school. I didn't know anybody that pursued it. And of course, this was prior to like the huge democratization of filmmaking that we've seen in the past, 10, 20 years, where technology has been way cheaper, way more accessible. So is knowledge. So I had there was a period of time I was really worried, like the dream was endangered. But I was able to get my hands on a camera, like a digital video camera at the time, an old DV camera, and a computer and a microphone. And that's actually when I started getting into documentary. I was never really deeply into documentary film. In fact, my first love is truly narrative film, fictional film. But at that time I thought, okay, I don't really know anybody. I have very minimal gear. What can I do with this? And it was like, oh, you can make a documentary. You just need a camera, a microphone. Of course, it's not that simple. It seemed like maybe it was that simple. And with that total lack of relevant knowledge, I charged forward and honestly, through a number of failed projects is how I learned how to do what I do, or the foundations of it, and how I started to meet people and things like that. So I did not go to school for film.
Yeah, I bought a camera. I basically, and a pole, used a tripod and a pole, and basically shot wrestling shows. And did my own public access television show for a number of years, but based central on my pro wrestling this week. Once in a blue moon, I just do an all news episode and cover various different things, kind of like a makeshift news studio or whatever. But that's in the past. I switched over to this show now. So, and what films have you all produced so far? You got a selection on your YouTube page. You're the Phoenix Productions, but what all have you released?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so I've owned a video production company for 15-ish years called Motion Source. Focus of that company is we actually do a lot of work with nonprofits doing fundraising videos, but we do work with other organizations and corporations as well, doing training videos or promotional videos of sorts. So huge bulk of work in that area. Beyond that, I did 6 shorts last year, actually. So I've probably now done, I want to guess like 20 something short films. I think I'm currently working on what is probably like my 47th music video. I'm very active in that genre as well, in music videos. And this documentary is my first feature film. I've got 2 other features I'm developing right now, neither of which are documentaries. Need a break from that, I think. But the primary goal right now is to finish Ghostlord The Quest for Dark Presence. So that's kind of the focus. So I've never done a feature, always wanted to. I think in owning my own business and having a lot of responsibility there, a lot of my creativity had to be funneled into short form content, hence all these short films and stuff. But that being said, I mean, I guess I figure the amount of runtime in shorts I did last year, that could have been a feature. That could have been applied to a feature in and of itself. So that's what we're working on now.
And kind of the most recent short film you put out is a little 5-minute video called The Different Door.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember the last one we released. There's actually like 6 films we haven't yet released from the last year and a half. So yeah, that was an interesting project and kind of dovetails with the documentary in a way. We shot it at the arcade.
And yeah, it's a short little psychological horror film. Somebody, I guess, a father and a daughter come to the arcade. The father rudely bumps into somebody, doesn't apologize, and then gets himself into a fix.
Yeah, for sure. And that was totally not what we were planning on doing that day. This film was made for a 48-hour film competition in which you have, like it says, 48 hours to write, shoot, cut, and submit a film based on a couple criteria they hand over to you at the beginning of the competition. So like genre, character name, line of dialogue, and prop. And I had written a script the night before, and we went into the arcade the next day. Our aim was to shoot that script. We started with portions of the film that didn't require dialogue. And then as we started to get into the evening, we knew audio was going to be a struggle because it's obviously incredibly loud with 1,000 games, right?
Right.
Running all the time. And we knew audio was going to be a struggle, but I figured if most of the scenes in the film were single takes, that it might work because the background noise would be consistent at the very least, and you would mic the people and you'd still hear their voices above that background noise. But it was a Saturday, and I tell you, by the time we got around to, okay, we're going to shoot dialogue scenes now, it was just so deafening. I can't say it. It was a deafening volume of activity between customers and games and everything. And we spent about an hour and a half trying to figure out trying to figure out where the quietest place in the arcade might be to shoot these scenes. Forget where I envision them being shot, but just find anywhere we might be able to capture audio. And there's really no options. There's really no options. So we got to a point where I want to say it was about 9:30 at night. And I took the crew out on the sidewalk. There's about 15 of us. And I said, look, we have 3 choices here. We can go to shoot the film that we planned on shooting, knowing that audio is going to be compromised, which is like the biggest taboo in filmmaking, right? You can have your footage can be kind of dark. It can be grainy, whatever. But if people can't hear what's going on, they immediately check out.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that option, but I put that option out there. So that was option 1. Option 2 was we scrap it, we pull the plug, and we just, we just say this one didn't work out. And 3 was we try to write something new and shoot it between, it was at this point 9:30 at night. The arcade closes at 2, right? So we completely come up with a new concept and shoot everything in that period of time. And I let the crew vote democratically, and the vote was, let's pursue the original idea. So I said, okay, you go do this, you do this, sent the teams inside, and I kept 2 or 3 confidants with me. And I said, look, we can't do this. We can't, the audio is not going to work. It's going to be compromised. This is a terrible choice. I know I put it up to the democratically, but no one's going to be happy tomorrow when we end up with a film that isn't what it could have been. So one of the producers, my girlfriend Lydia, said, look, take 30 minutes, take 3 people of your choice and try to come up with a new idea that we could do. Doesn't require a lot of dialogue, and we can just shoot it in 3 hours. So I went behind the building next to the arcade with a few of the team members, and we brainstormed and we produced the script, the sequence of shots. We kind of just brainstormed it out for what became the different door. And I have to say, that was very much a group effort in terms of, because normally I do the writing, but this was like really, really a group effort. And this idea came from David, then I attached this, then Jake attached this, and Drew said, so we ended up with a rough idea. I sent David inside. He's my camera operator. I said, start shooting X, Y, and Z. Jake and I are going to go sit in the truck for a minute, and we're going to sequence all the other shots we need out, and we're just going to plow through. And I think we were done filming at 2:30 in the morning. The guys at the arcade are, it was Tom and JP, great guys, and they really just supported us, kept it open a little bit later, and allowed us to get what we needed. But truthfully, that film came out of, that film was like 3 hours of work from concept to conclusion of filming. So it actually turned out really well for all things considered, I think.
And good enough to get second place overall.
It did win second place in the tournament. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious what the original idea would have been if the noise, the ambience in the building wasn't so bad. Maybe a different arcade would have been a better idea. But
yeah, I think shooting in the arcade was a bad idea to begin with. But Doc and I are pretty good friends, and Doc is a very, very generous person. He's been very, very generous with me, and he's always said it's open to you if you need it for anything. He would never close it down, right? But if you need it, it's open to you if you need it. And I was being ambitious this time, and I thought, you can't beat that location in terms of production value, and just it's just so cool, and there's so much to see, and there's so much character. So we thought, we'll give it a shot. I thought if we shot all the scenes as a single take, the background noise would remain consistent. Like, we could make this work. And we did make it work, but not in the way that I conceived of it.
But what was the original story idea, or what?
Sure, yeah.
Do you remember?
I definitely remember, because I wrote it all out. I'm going to be somewhat vague, because you never know, I might turn this into a story, but I think
retry at, I don't know, Underground Retrocade or something.
maybe. The Scott's a very, very nice guy too. And I think he opens later, so maybe we could shoot in the days or something. But the concept revolved around there's a basement under one of the rooms in the arcade. I won't say what room it is. They're hidden behind a machine is a door, and that door leads into a very creepy basement. And having that knowledge and seeing that space made me come up with this concept of a man who had been stuck in the arcade for years, right? He couldn't find his way out. It very much was almost like a liminal space for him. He was foraging in the garden, like any food that was tossed, he'd have to forage and eat, because just for this one individual, there seemed to be no exit. So he had to live off anything that he could scavenge in that space. And the reason he was stuck there was because he had made a choice at one time to find this sort of urban legend, this different door in the space, and go through that door to where it led, and what he found put him in this liminal space. And there's this story was going to be that same, the father and daughter characters still, and the daughter recognizes this man in the arcade. She acknowledges that he's there, and no one's really seen him. I don't know how to explain it, but he's been this phantom almost for years. And I don't know that I'm doing a good job explaining it. It was very strange.
I kind of get it.
Yeah,
I'm kind of aware of a basement at Galloping Ghost where they apparently stick monitors down there. It's not a space you can walk around, and you'd pretty much be crawling on your hands and knees almost.
I felt really terrible too, because that basement was supposed to, the door would lead to another realm. And I envisioned it like the Fey realm, you know, sort of Celtic mythology, this doorway into this other space. And a couple of team members had really spent the entire day dressing that staircase. So they made it in a way that it looked like as you descended the staircase, there was moss on the steps and vines were coming down. And it had that feeling that you were leaving the mundane world and entering this very otherly place. And when things didn't work out, we just had to tear everything. There are hours and hours of work, just tear it out, throw it in a garbage bag, and say, this isn't going to happen. So my original concept of way more me and how my creative brain works, it would fit into what I would call the weird, in terms of if I had to pick a genre, which is more applicable to literature than film. Maybe. I still like the story, so I don't want to give too much away.
I will say Underground Retrocade has probably an easier to access basement. There's no games down there. You could use, it might be a better option to for somebody crawling out of the basement.
But the stairs are in the middle of the room, right? Isn't that how it is?
Middle of the arcade, yeah.
Yeah, the good thing about this was it was hidden away. So the idea would be that, you know, you couldn't find this easily, and you couldn't even just find it if you were seeking. That the idea was you had to become lost in the space, and only then when you were lost would the door appear. So there was almost a fairy tale, a dark fairy tale angle to this. So yeah, so it'd be hard to do it otherwise. Maybe we just need to shoot it. What time does the arcade close these days? 11 on a weeknight?
So it opens at 11 a.m., closes at midnight. Friday and Saturday, 2 a.m.
2 a.m. So maybe on a weekday, we just have to shoot between, you know, the hours of midnight and 11 a.m. That's a pretty good chunk of time. I'm just doing over. So we'll see. Maybe I'll just turn it into a short story or something. I don't know. But it was, all in all, it was an interesting experience. I think the team was actually incredibly happy with it. I think the fact that it was such a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, we were basically at the point it was going to be over. It's just not going to work. And I think the fact that everybody had a wonderful attitude and banded together and was passionate about making something, the fact that we not only made something, but that it was honored, I think that says a lot about the efforts of the people I work with. And I think it made it a very special project for all of them as well. All of us.
Just curious, what was the film that took first?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Lydia, because she, my girlfriend and the producer and production designer on the film, she actually, I won't get into it, but weirdly, this was for a competition out of, let me make sure, Pittsburgh. And
I believe so. And by the way, she's in the chat, so she can type a message and tell us if she remembers.
Yeah, she might.
Her screen name is Lydia J.
She might know. She went to Pittsburgh for the screenings with her niece and her sister. So I don't think I ever saw the first place film, so I couldn't tell you.
It's her.
Yep.
Do you know the answer, Lydia?
She might remember what the film's called.
Or what it's even about.
Incredible film community in Pittsburgh. I'm tempted to move out there. Not really, because there's not enough, I think, resources and opportunity, but the people there are just incredible and very supportive of each other.
She has to look it up.
Yeah, she can get that answer for you.
We do have a film festival in Springfield at Hoagland Center of the Arts, although I don't know when it is.
It's mind-blowing how many film festivals there are. I mean, there must be there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of film festivals all over the world. It's incredible.
I should ask you this. There's all these filmmakers. How threatened are you by films generated by AI?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think as a filmmaker, I don't feel that threatened. As an owner of a video production studio, I feel a lot more threatened because I already see people in the context of commercial work and such. Like, I already have people saying, hey, we'll let's just use an AI voice. Now you've got famous people licensing their voices to AI. Michael Caine just licensed his voice to 11 Labs. You could pay and have Michael Caine narrate whatever, right? So I think in terms of commerce, right, in terms of the commercial space, I think there's a lot of threat from AI. I think in terms of cinema, there's some, but honestly, I've been so heartened the last 6-10 months. I feel like I just hear people complaining about the use of AI and not filmmakers.
Yeah.
The premise of art, to me, is that it's a bridge between people. It connects people. It is the product of a person, and therefore you connect with it. You find kinship to it. So when we remove that, it becomes very like masturbatory to me. You're just generating something to entertain yourself. It's total junk food, right? So
yeah,
I think a lot of people aren't really down for AI generating their art. I found a band the other day on Spotify, really liked them. I'm like, Lydia, you got to check out this band. I'm playing it for her in the car. I said, I can't find anything on them though. And she looks it up and she says it's entirely AI generated. There's people all over Reddit losing their minds because they felt like I did. They found the band, were connecting with the music, and then realized the music is the product of an algorithm, and you immediately check out at that point. There's no connection anymore. So yeah, I don't feel particularly threatened at the moment in terms of filmmaking, in terms of art. But I think in terms of commerce, in terms of business and commercial interests, like, yeah, of course, they're going to use as much AI as possible to pay as few people as possible and make as much slop as possible. And that's just the nature of it.
Yeah, YouTube is apparently somebody's out in India producing hundreds of AI slop videos and uploading YouTube as shorts. And it's like,
what's amazing is we live we are currently entering a world where reality is suspect at all times. Like,
yeah,
we're seeing the government doctor photos. It's like you don't know. And I think that's the most horrific aspect of the AI revolution.
Everybody's doing it. It's not just the government. Even the political dissidents are doing it.
Of course, it's not just the government. But what I'm saying is, it's terrifying when it is the government. It's terrifying that it's being abused on so many fronts, and
Yeah.
that's the scary part to me. Not them, making a Avengers film out of AI or something like that. I mean, they basically are already. So
Yeah, it's pretty much I don't trust anything I see. It's gonna take a lot of looking at to determine if it's actually a real thing. But 9 times out of 10, it may be AI generated.
it's hard to know anymore. So, and I think it's only going to get harder. I remember experimenting with Mid-Journey, which was like generative AI a few years ago, where you put in prompts and you would generate images with it. And at first I was just fascinated by it. That went away very quickly. It felt very empty and hollow. But what was happening with image generation then, the fidelity with the video generation now is greater than what was happening with image generation just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So in 2 years, I would assume, I'm no futurist, but I would assume it's going to be indistinguishable from reality. And that's very dangerous.
So today, somebody sent me a reel of a Hell in a Cell death match in a supermarket where these overweight managers were fighting each other and flying off the top of the cage and crashing headfirst to the floor, which should kill any normal person. And plus, the cages, there's no way that the ceiling was that tall to have a cage in the building in the first place. But
right. You knew it was fake.
They're everywhere. All this is everywhere. It's like, this is just stupid. More than anything. It's like, used a few times, but now not so much.
Some of the things I see are just so terrifying too. I'll go on Instagram and just random videos. It would be like a baby's head with elephantitis and mechanical spider webs. It's just random horrific imagery that this stuff is putting out. We live in the era of AI horror, I feel like. When you think about what defines an era aesthetically.
Yeah.
And we look at the 80s and we think like, what do we think? Neon and color blocking and whatever we think, right? In the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets harder the closer you get to the present, I feel like, to define an era by certain aesthetic terms. But I think what will be remembered for this age is the terrifying AI imagery, the just not quite right. Everyone has 6 fingers and one's bent backwards sort of imagery. So it's just very strange.
I fear more Skynet becoming reality, and then we have to deal with real life Terminators running around trying to eliminate humanity or whatever.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. It would have to have malicious intent. I don't know. Who knows? We don't know. We just don't know. That's the idea of the singularity, I guess. There's a point beyond which we cannot imagine. Yeah. And we may be there sooner rather than later. I don't know.
All right. So let's get to Ghostlord The Quest for Dark Presence. This is your first major full feature film. How did this project get started? And what was the inspiration to tackle this major project?
It was a while ago. I mean, it was a few years before I started it. I was at a Christmas party for one of our clients was hosting a Christmas party. They're a marketing agency. And I was talking to this girl at the party named Megan. And she was, I don't know, probably in her early to mid 30s, very pregnant. She was telling me, we were talking, she was a teacher in Bourbonnais. She was a very normal life. And at one point in our conversation, she mentioned something about being in a video game when she was 18. And I said, what do you mean you were in a video game? And she told me, well, do you remember the old Mortal Kombat games? And I was like, well, absolutely. Mortal Kombat came out when I was 10. So I was the perfect audience for that game. I very much remember those games. She said, yes, it was like that. It was real people. They were, we were being filmed. We were filmed on a green screen and we were put in a game. And I said, where was this happening? And she said, Brookfield, Illinois. Now, I'm assuming most people watching know Brookfield, but if not, it's just a suburb just outside of the city, just outside of Chicago.
My favorite place to go.
It's where Galloping Ghost is.
Yes, and the zoo.
And the zoo. The two major attractions that we have. And I said, what, like, there's no others. I can't imagine there's ever been another studio in Brookfield other than ours, because it's just a suburban town. And she goes, well, it wasn't a studio. It was like this grungy warehouse, and they hung this sort of makeshift green screen. I'm like, what? Who was doing this? And she goes, well, it was Doc Mack. I didn't personally know Doc, but I knew of Doc. I don't think you can live in the area and not know of Doc. Doc owns Galloping Ghost Arcade, Galloping Ghost Automotive or Garage, sorry.
Garage, yeah.
Galloping Ghost Gym and Martial Arts, Galloping Ghost Reproductions, Galloping Ghost Kaiju Cook. So he has you're aware of his presence.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, he lived directly across the street from my old business partner. So I would also see him sometimes coming out of his house, long black hair, black sort of kung fu jacket with the ghost, black Corvette that said Ghostlord on it. He was very much like the cool older dude in an 80s movie or something like that. Like you could see him as a character in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So I had never met him, but I knew the character of Doc. And I heard about the concept of this game. And I thought, that's really interesting. And I asked her what happened to the game, and she had no clue what had happened to the game. So I think I went online that night and I looked it up, and there was a website up for Dark Presence. Mm-hmm. And I think it said coming soon, coming in like 2010 or something. And at this point, it's like 2017. I don't know,
Yeah.
Right. This is the story of the game.
Oh.
And I was looking at some of the characters and I'm like, this is absolutely wild. This looks like something I would have come up with when I was 13 years old, And I always wondered what the story was behind it, what was going on. But at that time, at least, I was busy with other things. And then, fast forward a few years later, I was driving past the arcade.
There it is.
Oh, I didn't even know if I wasn't sure the website was still up, but there it is. So years later, I'm driving past the arcade with Lydia, and there's a film crew shooting there, like a massive film crew, right? Mm-hmm. Semi trucks on the side streets, massive crew, massive lights. And that kind of, for some reason, jogged my memory, tied Galloping Ghost and Doc and this game, tied it to the idea of film once again. And I told Lydia, because she knows everybody somehow, I said, you and Doc are friends on Facebook, reach out to Doc, tell him I'd like to meet with him. I'd like to hear his story. I'd like to talk to him. I'd like to know what's going on with this game. And she did. And I think like 3 days later, I met him and I went in there. They'd been filming a scene at the arcade. Apple TV had been filming a scene for, I think, the show Shining Girls. And that's what was going on there. But I sat down with Doc. Even just walking in his office, I realized there was a kinship between us, because you go down the hall to his office and there's hundreds of martial arts weapons bolted to the wall. Yeah. I grew up watching Kung Fu movies, huge influence. Going in his office, there's Godzilla models everywhere, guitars everywhere. I mean, these are things that spoke to that kid in me, right? And I sat down and I didn't know what to expect. I kind of thought he'd probably be a jerk just because he looked like the cool guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, this guy's probably going to have a real ego. But he was just so nice and so open and so accommodating. And we sat there and I think we talked for like 3 or 4 hours. And I just had him take me from being, 17 or however old he was when he started conceptualizing the game, all the way up to the present. And as he told me the story, I just kept having the moments of like, this would make a great documentary. This would make a great documentary. The game being refilmed 3 times, the actual Mortal Kombat actors being involved at one point, Doc's mystery sickness where he was coughing up blood sometimes 20 times a day. His
the
list went
probably tied to the Monday mystery he missed that he always complains about.
Could be. I think he's better now, but it was just like the fact that he had investors involved when he was in his late teens, flying, you know, rich dudes, probably millionaires from Texas, flying in and going into his bedroom at his parents' house, and he would give presentations on here's why you should invest in this game, and people are signing checks over to him. And I'm hearing this story, I'm like, such a wild story. I said, at the end of the day, I said, thanks for sharing all this with me. Let me follow up in a day or two. You know, I was thinking at the time, maybe just like a short little doc piece when I walked in there. Hey, maybe this is a 10 or 12 minute short documentary I put together. And after he shared this story with me, I think I reached back out that night and I said, this is a feature film. Would you be open to that? It's going to require a lot of time, and I'm going to need absolute access to your life as much as possible, as much as you're willing to share, but a lot. And he said, yeah, I would be open to that. I would be open to you telling that story. And that was, well, it's like 4.5 years ago now, truthfully, I think.
Yeah.
That was probably about 5 years ago. We've been working on it for about 4.5 years. So that was the genesis of it. I wasn't looking to do a doc, especially after having done a few failed documentaries, like I mentioned early in my career. And, you know, it hadn't been on the docket at all. But my best friend always says, you know, he said at the time, I think I probably called him afterward, and he was just sort of like, if you don't tell this story, somebody else is going to. You know, you found it, and it's a valuable thing, and you can either shape and sort of craft that thing to be this film, or someone else is going to come along and they're going to take that story and transform it into something. And so either strike now or don't, you know. And it was kind of, that was motivating for me to say, okay, I'll just say F it, because I don't know the language rating on your show, so F it.
Well, Michael Rossi dropped the F-bomb a lot of times last Monday, so whatever.
Yeah, whatever, okay.
I'm not so intellectually lazy, although in private I seem to be dropping a lot of swear words of late as I've gotten much older. I'm not happy about that, but I have been. So maybe it's kind of something in my head is making me function that way.
I'll go PG-13. I said, screw it.
No, that's all right.
Let's just do it. And that was the beginning. That was the genesis. So I didn't exactly know where it was going to go for sure. Actually, probably 6 months before we started shooting, I would meet with Doc at least twice a week in the evenings. And I was taking his whole story down. It was such a big story. I mean, such a period of time. I needed to really get it down, wrap my head around it, so I could have a sense of how I was going to put all of this together. And I think I ended up with somewhere like 500 pages of notes, right? The joke. Yeah, the joke.
I don't even like to take notes.
I don't mind it. The joke between me and him, I said, you know, the next piece is going to be your biography, man. Like I have all of the information. Weirdly.
Yeah, you're going to write a novel.
I could. Weirdly, I think in some ways I probably know Doc better than a lot of people do, because I just spent a lot of nights in his office, just the two of us sitting there for hours, like overturning all the rocks in his past. I remember at one time he told me he actually, this has been a very therapeutic process for him in a way, because if you think about revisiting your entire life, really, and talking about it and putting it out there and maybe getting some feedback, and just he said it has actually been a very therapeutic process for him. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful that the process itself has given something back to him.
Yeah. And I use this podcast to kind of relive some of my past as well.
Yeah.
So 500 pages of notes. You've shot, footage over 5 years. How many hours of footage you have right now on this alone?
I can tell you just interviews. I don't know everything like B-roll and just observational footage. Like interviews alone was 150 hours. And that's really what took that's been the bulk of like why it's taken so long in the edit and everything, is to take 100. I mean, It sounds like a lot, but I don't think people realize how monstrous of a feat it becomes to transform 150 hours of people talking into 2 hours of people talking in a cohesive story. And that is certainly not something I've done without help.
Yeah, I talked a lot too during my interview. Like an hour and a half, 2 hours, way more than the lady I talked with probably expected. I don't know.
Which was Lydia. That was Lydia.
Yes, Lydia.
And
I forgot. It's been 3 years now.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. And we, I think with Doc alone, let's see, I did like 30 or 32 nights of interviews, about 3 hours a night. So, I mean, you do the math. Well, 2 hours some nights, 3 hours others. So you've got quite a bit of footage just with Doc. I mean, I have his whole life story. You have everything.
You could practically, you have enough material, you could actually give some of this footage, the unused footage, other documentaries that are in production that are involving some of the same players, and then on multiple podcasts of sorts. Like mine's probably a podcast of its own.
I see. I knew you have one of our or two of our clips in there too. In your intro,
yes.
Nice little preview. So yeah, we have a lot of footage, a lot of people, a lot of footage. I interviewed a lot of people, like an excessive amount. I was very excessive with everything. And it in a way is I think it sort of mimics Doc's own completionism.
Yeah.
I took that on, not intentionally. And but it happened, and it was just like I became obsessed with the story, and I overturned every single rock I could find, and we ended up with 150 hours of interviews, and then plus, like you said, like just I think I met you the very first day we were filming, because the very first thing we filmed was T20 and the competition that they host over there at Galloping Ghost, and I didn't even know exactly where everything was going to go at that point, but that was occurring, and I felt, let's just get it. We're here. At that point in time, I was probably thinking like, this project will take a year or so. So if whatever events come up, I should get on it and document them, over the course of this year. And I recall, I believe I think we met you that first day that we filmed. Actually, that's when
I was the defending champion at that moment, because Justin Vithel has won every T20 except one. So I'm the one in the 10-1 of all the T20s, because Justin sat out the COVID year.
We got to get somebody in there to really give him a run for his money.
The person who came the closest was John Lining. He was 1 point behind one particular year, which was probably the roughest time Xerxes has had. But successive years, John has finished in 4th, believe it or not. It was Pearl and Jacob Grimm taking 2nd and 3rd last year. But they weren't. Xerxes was not in any danger of being beat by either one.
I feel like it's got to be boring to win all the time.
Well, if you're getting handed $500 in prize money, I don't think I'd be that bored. But plus, that's the only time he's able to go to Galloping Ghost over the course of the year.
Wow.
I don't know why he's not able to go any other times, but if he's there all the time, I mean, you would just give Andrew Wasco a run for his money.
Yeah.
But anyway, from there, yeah, they filmed the T20. Then the first gamer of the year, was that the year I won?
I think that was
yes,
where you won.
Yes, 21. I got the belt. The day I did the interview with Lydia was the last day I had with the belt. So it was my, and I've been joined by the real star of the show, this guy. Cody has decided to crash the stream.
He looks like
what?
One of mine.
Yeah, well, this guy's caused me to miss a pinball convention in Chicago because he bit me.
He bit
badly.
You.
Oh,
Jeez.
He's got displacement aggression. So he sees during the summer months when the window's open and he sees other cats in the area, he can't get at them. So he takes out his anger and rage on me.
You got to have you seen those gloves that are like cat toy gloves? It's almost like a hand puppet thing. You know, you could maybe.
Yeah, but he blindsided me.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Have to wear them all the time when you're at home.
He's tacked me on the face too, so that wouldn't do any good for the hands.
Yikes.
Yes. While sleeping too.
Wow. He's a madman.
Yeah, he is. Anyway. So from there, last day. So this is going to be officially the first gaming documentary that I'm in. Depending on how much of, I don't know what the final cut's going to look like. I don't know how much my peers are going to appear. How much I obviously print the game itself, get the game done, and officially released is the focus. Of course, we have all the background activities at the arcade. But the question is, gosh, when they, let's see, you did the fundraiser, the Kickstarter. I donated to that. Mossy's donated to that. Some others. You got way over your goal. There was a specified date when you thought the project or the documentary would be ready for release, or at least the rough cut for the bigger contributors. But right now, the game is not done yet, or at least it's not finished. Yeah, the 6-month rule is in play, but that 6 months seems to be frozen in time as well. So the question is, what's the status of the film compared with the status of the game? And when do you think it's going to be done, or is the 6 months just frozen?
Well, so the game, I could only speculate on. I've heard similar timeframes.
Yeah.
Everybody seems very optimistic right now. Last time I saw them, the film, I don't need the game to be done for the film to be done, right? So my goal would be to get the film done in the next 4 to 6 months. That would be my goal. I think the hard part for us is we're in a position where we need to raise some more funds or get some more funds together to get over the final hump. Making a film is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And it just seems it's just a black hole of money. I mean, I think I've put 60 to 80 grand in over the years on myself.
Wow.
And then we raised almost 70,000, like you said, in Kickstarter. But a lot of things people don't think about when it comes to a film. A lot of that revolves around like just legal, how expensive the legal side of getting a film through review, and particularly a documentary that requires like a legal review. And then think about what we're doing. Like the film we're making includes so many copyrights. So literally my attorney has to go through every second of the film and, check, question, whatever, every piece of content we have in there for, do we have the right to use this? Is it fair use? Is it this? Is it that? So there's this whole very boring angle for most people that is required to, get a film over the finish line. There's just a lot of different things. It's films are notoriously over, games are too, right? Films are notoriously they take longer and become more expensive than they were intended to be. And it's no different with a video game or really any other creative venture. So I would really, really, in my heart of hearts, I want this film done in the next 4 to 6 months. The cut is basically done in terms of the story, the talking heads, the interviews, the hard part. Now it's putting in all what we call B-roll, the supplementary footage. So you're not just looking at talking heads the whole time. You're actually seeing archival footage from the game being made, or you're seeing something that, arcade footage or whatever it is, whatever it needs to be. And we need to shoot a little bit more of that too. That's kind of the phase we're in now, is to do a little bit more shooting to fill that out. We're sorting through a lot of art. The other part you have to remember is the amount of tapes we have. Everything in the game was filmed, and the game was filmed 3 times. So we've had to go through every single second. We've had to digitize all of these mini DV tapes and VHS tapes and VHS-C tapes. And we've had to go through every second of that as well, because you never know what you're going to find. You never know what you're going to see and what you might need to tell the story.
If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have gone to a video camera that used SD cards instead of DV. These little bitty tapes, because I spent all the wrestling shows I shot had to use a tape, and a couple of them, and I also have to judge when I need to switch the tape so I not interrupt the act. I have a break in between,
right?
It's like the match not have a gap in it because I swapped tapes.
Yeah, I feel you on that, but I do feel nostalgic toward DV as well. I kind of miss it. I'd like to shoot something on it again, as weird as that sounds, because it's so antiquated. Maybe like a found footage type of story, but it's certainly way less convenient than cards, so than recording onto cards.
Although you can copy them to, I have several external hard drives full of MP4 footage and MPEG footage. And now, this thing here, let me get this closer. This is a 360 camera. I just got this. This is an Insta 364X.
Wow.
I got this last weekend. I'm going to be taking it to game cons and stuff, and maybe some arcades to shoot 360 footage so I can not miss anything. If I walk past something and I'm looking another direction, I can go back and look and see what I missed to the left or to the right. Just get it all. And not miss any little. And maybe spot some people walking up behind me and throwing up the rabbit ears. But yeah, this was inspired by Erica when I had her on my pod last week. But this was like $400 with all the
it's very
Costco package. It was used too.
I was gonna say that's pretty affordable for for camera.
Yeah. Plus, I had to drive it. I had to beat the snowstorm to get it. Because I had to drive to Champaign Saturday to go after this thing. And it's like the snow had started. Snow's really come down when I got home.
You made it just
home, I guess, before all the traffic wrecks started happening on the highway. But I think a lot of people kind of got wise after the last snowstorm, when there was a multi-car pileup at the 5572 interchange that some people lost their lives in.
Yikes.
Yeah. Anyway. The legal stuff, and then my next question was challenge and difficulties. Yeah, the legal would be a real challenge. And plus, legal fees just add up. If you're going to have, the more you use your legal, the more money you're going to be shelling out for that. But what are some of the other challenges and difficulties that you had in
I think
getting all this?
a lot of it we covered is just the sheer quantity of material. So it's one thing to walk into a project with a script and say, here's 120 pages we're going to film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another thing to walk in and say, okay, we're going to document essentially somebody's life story and, 30 plus years or more. And we're going to talk to 50 different people, and we're going to end up with 150 hours of interview footage, and craft that into 2 hours of a story. I mean, I can't even tell you how long that process was, and very grateful to Max and Drew, my assistant editors. Very grateful to a handful of friends, especially Anthony and Ashley, some friends of ours that really would sit through a lot of iterations of this, give me feedback. I had a lot of assistance, but it's still an immense task. So I think challenges are that's truly like that is probably the biggest challenge. And then obviously legal will be its own challenge as we get into that. Other than that, I mean, Doc's great. Doc's wonderful to work with. I will say that the way that Galloping Ghost works is somewhat spontaneous, which sometimes makes it hard to draw a bead on any given thing and make sure you're in the right place at the right time. But Doc has always been giving me like absolute access. And I think something interesting with Doc is he's always told me, this is your story. Obviously it's he's the material, but he's telling me, I trust you to you tell the story you want to tell. And I think he has put a lot of trust and been extremely open with me and my own creative vision in this in a way that is, I think, probably incredibly rare. Who's going to basically give you their life story and say, okay, I trust you. You create what you're going to create with it. And he's told me a lot of things. He's given me so much honesty. I think when people watch this film, people that are aware of the arcade, people that are familiar with Doc, and that's not the audience. The audience, I want a wide audience of people that can enjoy this. But if you know Doc and you know the arcade, I think it's going to be really interesting.
You got
this is my
the
little
kitty.
He's demanding attention. This is one of 5 right here. This is the littlest, but he's massive. Baby
Persian?
No, he's just a black guy. For now. I don't even remember what I was saying, but Doc's been great. It's been amazing working with him. Most people wouldn't have given me the degree of access he's given me. Oh, I think people that see the film, that know him and know the arcade, their eyes are going to be open to a lot of things. It'll be a fascinating view sort of behind the curtain and behind, the man in the black jacket. I think it'll be really interesting. And I'm incredibly grateful for him, in my life on a number of levels, but just his openness is been phenomenal. So yeah, challenges. I mean, other than that, like there's a couple of people that refuse to talk to me. There's people I tried to work on forever to get them in the film. There's a former employee that was incredibly offensive to me.
Gee, I wonder who that would be.
I'm sure you could probably figure it out. Unprovoked, really, in my opinion. So there's been a couple of weird encounters, but in general, I think we ended up interviewing like 50 plus people, and I've met so many wonderful people as well, some of whom have really become friends, and and just been very grateful that people have opened up their lives and their stories to us. So
how do you
no, I think I was trailing off, so go ahead.
So how do you compress this down when you from all the hours of footage? How do you decide what to put in the film and what gets left on the cutting room floor?
I mean, you just keep going through it over and 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 over again. I had an idea how the story was going to flow because I knew the story, but then you kind of do your first The first thing we did was we broke the film into 130 something segments. And it would just work on each segment in isolation. So this segment's going to be about Doc's crazy martial arts training as a child, under the tutelage of his father. This segment's going to be about opening night of the arcade, whatever. There's like 130 something segments. So that all of those added up would probably be 6 or 7 hours, right? So but it's amazing. You've gotten 150 hours down to 6 or 7. And then my first cut of the film, like putting all the segments together, whittling down, ejecting some, jettisoning some, got to be, it's probably like 3.5 hours. And then you just keep working at it and you show it to people. You show it to people you trust, and you try to get some feedback from them. And I'm grateful that people that have been willing to sit through it multiple times, especially with it just being talking heads, not a lot of stuff to look at. And you keep working. It gets harder the further along you get. So when you're at 2 hours and 15 minutes and you're saying, okay, I want to get this a little bit tighter, I need to lose 15 minutes. It gets really hard then, because you got to cut significant things out at that point, and you're trying to distill it into its essence. There are things I want the audience to get out of the film, and you're sort of walking the line of like, how streamlined can I make it while still ensuring that those points are communicated? Because it can't be a 6-hour film. It can't be a 3-4 hour film.
Right. So if the game is not out yet, could this possibly be the Quest for Dark Presence and then a sequel with the remaining footage with the game actually releasing?
People have said that. You can do this. No. I'm already queuing up other things to work on. This has been a wonderful chapter in my life, and it'll be very sad in a lot of ways when the film's done and out there and everything. But who's Geo Cricket?
I'm not sure.
Who are you, Geo Cricket?
It's a first-time chatter, so apparently he knows you. So he just picked a screen name.
Hi, Geo Cricket. It'll be sad when everything. 4.5, 5 years. Oh, Noah, what's up, man? The next to Doc, the biggest Godzilla fan I know, my buddy Noah. It'll be sad when it's done because it's ultimately. I've been in this for 5+ years, and I've met so many people. Doc's become such a good friend, and it'll be sad, but also there's a lot of other chapters to explore. So no sequel, no Netflix series. It's a film. I want to create a film that resonates with a large audience of people. It's not just gamers. That's not the point of the film to me. It never has been. The point of the film is the story of a very unique and eccentric man who is determined to achieve a very specific dream that he never seems to achieve. But in that, there's little sub dreams that spin off, and it's really inspiring. I think it's a really inspiring story, and I really hope. That's not what I set out to do. I never think of theme when I start a project. I just think this is interesting. I'm going to start exploring it, and you discover the theme through the exploration. But at the end of the day, I found Doc's story is an incredibly inspiring story, and very few people I know carved their own niche into the world the way that they wanted it to be. And Doc has created a very specific pocket of reality that has had a major impact on a lot of people's lives. And there's something beautiful about that. And there's something incredibly heartening and encouraging about the fact that he has just never given up on this original vision. I don't know anybody else who would have stuck it out so long. I wouldn't have. If I was year 20 of this film, I'm giving up, right? It's done. I'm sinking it. It's over. So I hope that people watch that and become inspired, just as I've become inspired. And I think that is a significant element of the film.
Once you get it trimmed down, then The eventual Blu-ray release will probably have a ton of video extras of all.
I mean, there's certainly, yeah, there's plenty of material for sure.
When you started this, over the course of this project, and I kind of look at Tokens and Taverns as an example, they're really covering the barcade scene, and then at a certain point, the documentary took an unexpected turn because of world events, that being COVID. The documentary probably turned out far differently than what they originally intended to set out to do. Did you encounter such a thing with this project?
That it changed shape from what I anticipated?
Yeah.
Not as dramatically as that, no. No way. I think especially that story of Bob making Token Taverns and COVID hitting during it, and it becomes a very different film, and a film that's kind of becomes something bigger than just barcade, right? It's about how do small businesses deal with that very specific and very important point in history. I mean, we talk about that in the film because it had a major impact on the arcade industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a major impact on everything, but a huge impact on the arcade industry and all these arcades shutting down. And, you know, if Dark Presence is going to be an arcade game and there's no more arcades, there's no venue, which was a big fear. So, but nothing is dramatic. I wish I could say, have some sort of really exciting story in that. But I think also, again, it was COVID. So, I mean, very few things are going to compete with these social significance of an event like that.
All right. Let me touch upon this. How do you shoot in this documentary, but what about you as a gamer? How good of a gamer are you? Or what terrible?
I'm a terrible.
Were you into gaming before you of any way, shape, or form before picking up the video camera?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm 44, so you know, the home console craze, like I was perfect. You got your Super Mario 3 poster back. You know, it was like NES, SNES, Genesis into PlayStation and beyond. I was part of, I think, the first generation of people that really were raised by consoles. So I would say, yeah, I was definitely more of a gamer when I was younger. I have a PS5 and I want to play games more often, but it's not something I prioritize anymore. I feel very left out in a sense because there's so many amazing looking games coming out and so many people I'm around are telling me about them. Noah is in this chat right now. He was telling me about Death Stranding 2 and just his experience with it and how exceptional the game, and it makes me excited and I want to experience that, but then it's very hard for me to prioritize the time required to do so. So I think in these days, I'm kind of going back to the arcade type of mentality. Doc and I'll talk about this is like a game that's made just to be played. You know, there's not a huge story. There's not this immersion, this open world. Like I'm playing like Overwatch, you know, like a online shooter, and I can jump in for 20, 30 minutes and just play a game and be active in the game. And I think, you know, that kind of game is probably more conducive to my lifestyle right now. But traditionally I was a huge gamer, very much console based, because arcades were like, how old are you, Steven?
Believe it or not, 54.
Okay, so you're a little bit older than me. So you actually experienced the heyday of arcades. For me, I was so young when arcades, I think, were critical, that I remember them dimly. My dad's youngest brother, who was kind of like an older brother to me, he lived with us. He would take me in like his, I don't know what, he was kind of like a Doc Mack type. He was a cool guy. He was a cool, older, creative guy. He was, I remember vague memories of him taking me to arcades at night and seeing like the joust machine and just all of these sounds and images and how magical that was. But I think I was too young to really be a part of it. But the consoles, I was the perfect age for the consoles. And that was a huge part of my life. You know, games were a very formative part of my life, but I just don't play that many anymore.
Trying to get your video back because it started freezing. Thankfully, your audio did not cut out.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I don't know. Something was up. So I had to go to a Ethernet cable from one room to another to keep my thing from not dropping on me. But
yeah, I'm on Wi-Fi, so that might be part of the problem.
Uh-oh, look who's here. King Cam, Black Man.
Oh, what's up, man? How you doing?
Wondered if he was ever going to arrive. What was your hook on gaming? What hooked you into it? Space Invaders is me. Was my hook back in 79 or so.
That's a great question. I mean, so Atari was around when I was really little, and I remember playing Atari and being excited about that. I really remember Pitfall.
Yep.
I loved Pitfall. It was so hard. Everything was so hard to me in those Atari games, which I think are really, really hard games. But it was really Nintendo coming out, the NES. And it was really like, of course, Mario, but Zelda. There was something just so exciting, and it felt mysterious, and there was this whole other fantasy world. And Pitfall is a great game. Yeah, I'd have to try it again. It's been a long time, but I think that original Zelda game really left an impact. And then a game that no one ever really talks about, but do you remember the game Excite Bike on NES?
Yes. And yeah, and Galloping Ghost got Excite Bike for the arcade floor not too long ago, a few months ago.
I didn't realize that. I'll have to go over there. But what I think was so cool about Excite Bike, I have no idea how this worked on a cartridge, but you could design your own levels. I'm assuming they vanished once you like turn the game off. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no saving mechanism now. If you have the N60, I think the N64 version of Excite Bike, the battery save mechanism will save tracks.
That I remember was so incredibly cool. I've always been a very creative person, you know, and if I like something, I want to emulate it, right?
Right.
You know, like when I loved video games, so my friends and we came up with something called the Sonic system, and we drew what it would look like, and then we drew games, levels, and characters, and wrote stories. It was immediately, that's how I've always been. That's why I wanted to do movies. I love movies, so let's make movies. It just seems like a natural progression. So I think in Excite Bike, the ability to actually do the thing, create the thing that you love doing, even on that small scale, that was so cool to me. So I think some of those early NES games for sure. And then we all have our, like, you know, you have those mile marker games in your life that just were very special games to you.
Yeah.
And are unforgettable. And I have a lot of those too over the years, you know, so. But arcade games, I mean, arcade is it was always so cool to me. The arcade was always so cool. But again, I was a little young for it to be something. I didn't have the experience of like I was going to the arcades with my friends. I do remember going to the like mom and pop video store on the corner when MK, the first Mortal Kombat, came out. And they had that one machine and putting a lot of quarters into that one machine. Because when you're 10 years old, and this is prior to, you know, primetime television showing people get eviscerated and whatnot, and you're able to like rip people's spines out and stuff as a 10-year-old, that the edginess of this, that is just so attractive when you're 10 years old.
Yeah, that got Yeah, and then I started seeing articles about, is Super Mario going to get super bloody? And like, well, it's here. And now it's more over the top than ever before. The new Resident Evil 9 video gameplay videos of that are out, and gosh, the blood splattering is more extreme than it's ever been. It's like,
yeah, I think
way
culturally,
over the top.
I think culturally, gore is a very interesting aspect of American culture. It almost seems fetishized.
Right.
We're not into nudity, but we're into ripping bodies apart. It's a strange.
Yeah, and I don't. Gosh, that's gotten so unrealistic. We're gonna wind this down because you're having more and more video issues. Thankfully,
Right.
your audio was starting to cut out for a little bit, but it's still holding. Any other gaming documentaries that you viewed, and did any of those give you any sort of inspiration in shaping yours?
No, because I would say it was never meant to be a video game documentary. It was meant to be a character study in a lot of ways.
Okay.
But there are a few video game docs I've seen over the years that just in general, have made an impact on me. Of course, I mean, at King of Kong, everyone's going to say that.
Right.
I think, and again, the beauty of King of Kong is that it exceeds sort of gamer culture. Like, you can watch it and you get invested in the characters and the story, whether or not you play games.
Right.
And there was a film called Indie Game. Have you seen this movie?
Not heard of it.
Indie
I'll have
Game.
to look that one up.
It's older now. I mean, so is King of Kong, but Indie Game is probably like 15 years old now. But it follows 3 different indie game developers and their story. And I think that was really well done.
It. And my other cat has joined me. Jeez.
Lucky you.
Yeah, she'll run across the desk multiple times and start digging. That's what she does. She's 18 years old and she wants me off this computer. Yes. 18 years old. And now, but recently acting more and more like a kitten. I don't know. She's getting way more active, but I'm kind of worried about her chronic issues I got to treat every day.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
medication.
Yeah. Never easy to give a cat medication.
No, I found a way to do it, but she's got to cooperate on taking it. But anyway, any future goals apart from getting the movie done, but the documentary? Let's say goals after this documentary is done. Let's put that in that form.
Yeah, I mean, the next thing is I have 2 narrative features that I'm developing right now. One of which is like a highly collaborative project that I think the process of making it is going to be unique in cinema. Way more collaborative than most films. And another of which is a good friend of mine, Phil. We've been working on films together for a few years now. He's an actor. And we've both just said we both really want to do a feature film together.
Right.
And especially, I wouldn't be surprised if Phil's career takes off, and he's inaccessible at some point, right? So we're working on a project together as well, developing just 2 very micro budget, character driven, supernaturally infused films. Those would be probably, at least right now, as of this conversation, those are the next 2 projects. We'll do a bunch more shorts for sure. We're always doing shorts, and I'll continue to make music videos because that's one of my favorite mediums to work within. And I just hope to continue making movies and hopefully getting more opportunities and resources to do so. And I would be a happy man if I one day expire on set doing what I love. No need to retire, just continue to create.
Well, if you expire on set, then the video, whatever you were working on is going to be like, is it going to get finished?
Well, I'll depend on one of my proteges. Either my niece My niece, who is the heir to I tell her, you're the heir to my throne. Anything I do, it's all going to you. Or Chloe, who is, so it's a young filmmaker that I actually met her years ago when we were filming at the arcade, and she was there as just a customer, and she went up to Lydia, actually, I think, and was talking to Lydia about, like, what are you guys doing and how do you get into this and all of that. And we said, hey, she was like a senior in high school, and we said, if you ever want to help out, like if you're really into this, you could come by sometime and help out. And she's been a part of the team for a few years now, and she's hopefully going to be directing her first short with our support soon. So I'm counting on one of those two girls to finish whatever that last film is. One of them's got to take it over the finish line for me.
All right. And now the other cat wants to get in here. Good grief.
It's a
Took
party.
off for a bit. Anyway. All right. I think we're going to wrap this up. I want to, it's Year of the Phoenix Productions on Facebook, the YouTube channel. It's Year of the Phoenix on YouTube as well. Is the screen name for both channel, both Facebook and cats.
You gotta love them.
Yeah. Sometimes they love me. I sometimes a little bit too much, and then they start kind of and sometimes I had to build an arcade room in the back of my garage so I could move my arcade games in there to play the games uninterrupted by these two felines. Here she goes again. I don't think you got a good look at her. That's her. And now she's gonna dig. That's my grandma's cat. Anyway, Craig, well, thank you for coming into the Crimeycade tonight, and hopefully we'll get to see this documentary in a few months, and because I've been chomping at the bit to see myself in a gaming documentary for the first time, and there's been others that have been shot around here, and I didn't know about them. So,
well,
glad to be in my first.
Be patient just a bit longer. I hope to have this out there sooner rather than later.
All right. Yeah, because when it gets released, I'm going to host a viewing party in my garage with my arcade.
Awesome.
All right, Greg, thank you for coming in, and hope to see you around the arcade soon.
Thank you, sir. Have a great rest of your evening.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. All right, Craig Bass. That was the guest for tonight's pod. And before we get out here, and I have a few announcements to share, including who my future guests will be. And I have new guests to announce tonight. But this weekend, well, the Super Bowl's in a week. It's going to be the Seahawks versus the Patriots. But beforehand, in Pekin, Illinois, at the formerly known as the Dragon Dome, the Advantage Dome, they're going to have a good old-fashioned Tecmo Bowl tournament. There's a fee to get in. It's in Pekin, Illinois at 3401 Griffin Avenue this Saturday. So sure to head to that website to find out more about it. Also happening this weekend, and I wish I knew about this earlier, Frosty Faustings, which is a 3-day event or 3-day tournament happening in Lombard, Illinois at the Westin. The tournament entries are closed, but you can head out there to check out the fighting games. It's combo breaker, but kind of on a smaller scale. So I wish I knew about it. Otherwise, I would have promoted it on this podcast. But they're streaming content from this tournament throughout the weekend on Twitch. And upcoming conventions, March 21st, Augusta Video Game Expo in Augusta, Georgia. I will have the organizer of this GameCon on my pod. Also, the organizer of this GameCon on my pod, RestroFest, also on March 21st in River Oaks, Texas. C2E2, Galvin Ghost Arcade will be going back to C2E2. They got a bigger space, so we're going to be bringing more games out to the McCormick Center. March 27th through the 29th. Don't know if I'm going to go to this or not, because and other things happening. Louisville Arcade Expo. Wish I could go to this too. Also happening that weekend in Louisville, Kentucky. And the Como Retro, the Northeast Event Center in Columbia, Missouri on April the 18th. And the con I look forward to every year, the streak of 22, 23, 21, 22 cons in a row. Last week in April, April 24th through the 26th. You better get your tickets now. The hotels, the main hotel is sold out. So you got to go around to the surrounding hotels to get a room Saturday night. Because the Hilton's sold out for Saturday. And I kind of want to be on, that skywalk from the Hilton to the Bard Center is very, very convenient, and I'm not going to enjoy that this time around. I have to go to the DoubleTree across the street, but be that as it may. Next week, next Thursday, we'll have the GameCon Roundtable. David Bryan, who was supposed to be on a month ago, will be available this time. Kind of had to bail out last time around because of some sort of emergency. He'll be joined by Miguel Ventura, who is running RestroFest for the 11th year, and then Scully Colt, who is running the St. Joseph, Missouri RetroCon. I believe that's going to be in June. This will be the second year for that one. But new guests, well, I talked about at the top of the show, is there fallout from my interview from Mike Rossi? Well, this gentleman wanted to stop in and give a rebuttal of sorts to Mike Rossi. I'm a fair man, so I'm going to give equal time. I'm going to do another special Monday pod on February the 9th, Monday, February the 9th at 6:30 Central Time, following Galvin Ghost Arcade's Monday Mystery Game. I will not be doing a pod on Thursday of that week because I got to take care of animals. And where'd the other one go? I still got the one in my lap. So that's my first new guest announcement. Following that, when I get back to a Thursday, my guest will be Jeff Lee, Gottlieb Milestar arcade designer. More than a week ago, we had the unreleased prototype baseball game, Curveball, which I did not understand how to play, and neither did Damian Cordova. We're supposed to switch sides when you're pitching and batting. Didn't. We're just confused as to how this was. Thought the game would switch sides for us. So, but he'll be in. We'll talk about some of the past games and games that didn't make it out the door, and new projects. Maybe some of the stories. Argus, Argus, Three Stooges, Cubert, and some of the unreleased games like Screw Loose, Tiles, Argus especially. Following Jeff Lee's appearance, we have another documentarian coming in, a couple of them, Justin Tolliver, and his colleague, who happens to be the ring announcer for Pro Wrestling Epic down in the St. Louis area, Robert Googs Severson, will be in Thursday, February the 26th. We'll be talking about the documentary that just released a few months ago that I didn't even know was being made. Yeah, I wish I did. Because it's like, Googs, You know I'm a gaming champion. Why didn't you tell me about this documentary? I could have been in it. Remarkably, Galpin Ghost Arcade is not in the documentary, or at least I didn't see it in the trailer. They have premiered this documentary, but I have not seen it yet. I don't know how I can see it right now. I don't know if they're selling DVDs or Blu-rays of this documentary, but they were up in Chicago. They stopped in at Stern Pinball. So we're going to talk about For Your Amusement 1 month from now. So those are my upcoming guests. And that will do it for the Crimeycade podcast. I will be rating the channel as usual. I got to see if he's still streaming at this point, because he was streaming earlier. If he is still streaming, I'm going to give him the raid. He is not. No, he's still going. So Justin Wong is going to get the raid tonight because they are covering the Frosty Faustings fighting game tournament. Until next time, I'm the Mad Conservative Cry Fighter, and have a good night, everybody.